Harley and Ivy not only broke the mold from what Batman the Animated Series was known for, but it also established the relationship between the titular characters, a relationship that has always been popular among fans and is still being explored in the Harley Quinn show. It's a very different kind of episode that works as a comedy, misadventure, villainous team-up, and more. But make no mistake, the dynamic created here among the main characters makes this installment an important one. After being kicked out of Joker's gang, Harley Quinn tries to go it alone and make a name for herself. When she tries to steal a rare diamond from the Gotham Museum of Natural History, she runs into Poison Ivy, who's there stealing plant toxins. They're able to escape the police and join forces for a crime spree that gets the attention of both Joker and Batman. Still longing for her Mr. J, Harley goes back and forth on returning to her old life, while Ivy tries to convince her to forget about the clown and continue their successful run of criminal activity. This all leads to a showdown with Batman and Joker at the toxic waste dump that Harley and Ivy have made their hideout. Paul Dini was behind the writing of this episode, and that's no surprise. He continued to pair these two up into the new Batman adventures and even wrote an episode of Static Shock that featured them together. The web series Gotham Girls had Dini writing more stories for this duo as well. Plus, we can't forget about the comic book series he collaborated on with Bruce Timm and others. Boyd Kirkland was tasked with directing Harley and Ivy, something he mentioned he was excited about in the commentary.
I was thrilled to get this script, Paul. I think you wrote a really fun story, and it was a delight. I had a great time putting this one together.
It's also one of the favorite episodes of Arlene Sorkin, the voice of Harley. So it's ranked high, not only among fans of the show, but on the list of the creative team behind it as well. It's easy to see why. There's a certain charm to Harley and Ivy unique to this story. There are other Harley-centric episodes later on, with at least one eclipsing this in my opinion, but the chemistry between Harleen Quinzel and Pamela Isley propels this installment to a class all its own. The episode debuted on January 18, 1993. The popular film Thelma and Louise hit theaters in 1991, which had a sort of similar idea with two women on the run from authorities. One could easily say Harley and Ivy was influenced by that movie, but in the commentary, Paul Dini says that wasn't exactly the case.
Did you also say something to the effect of Thelma and Louise with supervillains?
I had actually not seen Thelma and Louise when I wrote it, and then I think it was in animation. I sat down and watched the movie, and it's like, oh, they're running around blowing up stuff too. Well, that's kind of a logical thing to do for two crazy women on the loose. Just sort of, I guess, channeled the movie before even seeing it.
If you've ever watched that Harley Quinn animated show on the old DC Universe app or HBO Max, this is definitely the clear blueprint. Harley gets kicked out by Joker, but still pines for him, and their, to put it lightly, dysfunctional relationship is delved into a bit. Joker's feeling of ownership over Quinn is shown while she's trying to establish herself as a villain in her own right. Add Poison Ivy into the mix, and the formula is basically the same. Granted, they've gotten to do a lot more with this kind of thing in the Harley Quinn show, and the tone is very different there. It gets to be more absurd with its comedy and directly call out tropes within the entirety of the DC universe, but back in Harley and Ivy, it still felt like it was given the freedom to at least be more goofy than a regular episode. One of my favorite moments is when Ivy attacks Joker after he tried to poison her with his flower. Hilarious. Speaking of Joker, he's great in this episode. While not exactly the focus, Mark Hamill got to play up a lot of jealousy in his performance, which came through strong. The visuals look pretty great throughout too, and that may be due to TMS providing the layouts for this Dong Yang animated episode. Joker himself looks good, except for this one scene where he looks like Jay Leno with a slightly smaller chin. Certain sequences definitely look better than others, but I do think the animation deserves mention here. Batman shows up sparingly, and that was the right choice to make Harley and Ivy stand out even more. We do get to see a new Batman-themed gas mask, though, and that looked awesome.
Evening, ladies. Playtime's over.
He was wearing it because of the fumes at the waste dump, but it's taken off as he's thrown into toxic water. He doesn't put it back on after this, and no one else is wearing one, so it ended up being a little pointless, but again, it looked awesome. They do explain away Harley being immune to the area because of a vaccine Ivy gives to her. I'd say Batman acts as a bit of an antagonist in this episode, and spoilers, he's not the one who apprehends Quinn and Isley in the end.
All right, ladies, raise 'em.
Renee Montoya got outfoxed by the pair a few times, so it was nice to see her get the win there.
Qué mala suerte.
I really enjoyed the more upbeat music. Shirley Walker is the only credited composer, but according to Volume 2 of the show's soundtrack, Lolita Ritmanis, Michael McCuistion, and Peter Davidson also had a hand in shaping the score. I love how it's used in the old-timey newspaper montage, showing Harley and Ivy's rise to prominence together. A few miscellaneous notes include Rosebud as the license plate of Ivy's pink getaway car, a long gun that Joker uses, which looks similar to Jack Nicholson's in Batman '89, and the location of the Peregrinators Club. That was a spot used in Harley's debut episode, Joker's Favor. If you're a big fan of the Harley Quinn show but haven't watched too much Batman the Animated Series, you should absolutely check this one out. You'll see the comparisons right away, as this is where the Harley-Ivy pairing originated. If you're looking to rewatch the best episodes of the series, I'd throw Harley and Ivy on your list. It's not necessarily one of my top 10, but it's so fun and different that it can't be ignored. And I know I've said that about plenty of other episodes, but this one really does stand out for how distinct it is. The tone is much lighter, and we get to focus on building a few characters that, before this, you wouldn't expect to see interact much. Give it a view for the entertaining romp that it is.